So welcome back. Thank you very, very much for staying tuned into Pan-African Television. I apologize for that little technical glitch. We're back again, and this time I have in the studios with me Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpuo, obviously, you know, the best man when it comes to Wednesdays, and also Dr. Adumako Kesi and Dr. Marzuk. So I have these three institutions, as I like to describe them, here seated, and we're going to be discussing matters relative to the EC. EC meets political parties today, but NDC declines participation. We want to interrogate why. Kumi Preko, the story as told by Ambassador Haruna Atta, the inside newspaper captured that we will evacuate stranded Ghanaians home. Foreign Ministry says the Supreme Court packed. Nanado appoints 11 justices in 3.5 years. Punch newspaper presented that story as well. So let me specially again greet Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpuo. We've missed him a lot on the show. It's been a while. I know you're doing a lot for WA Central. You didn't want to even come back. You love your people so much. Yeah. You don't love us more. Yeah, you should love us more. At least you extend more of the love to us. Oh. And even Dr. Adwogisi, now he's always in Nanya's Utrum.
He will win his primaries.
Oh, he will. He will. He will. But he loves his people too much. Sometimes it's not good though. When you overlove them, it's not good. Dr. Marzuk, you are not lecturing, unfortunately. But good morning to you. Yeah? Online. Okay. But good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate your presence. So we kickstart the conversation with the story of Kumi Preko. And if I may respectfully, Doc, read a little bit of what Haruna Atta has said, and then we will get into that conversation. So, this is not a rejoinder, but my reflection on a story and images that came to my attention a day after the 25th anniversary of the Kumi Preko protest marches, which fell on the 11th of May 2020. A sizable percentage of the Ghanaian population was not even born. I was present at the conception, gestation, birth and death of Kumi Preko and AFC. It seemed such an unlikely proposition when we first discussed it at the Daanso residence of Mr. Ejiri Blankson, early 1995. The first words leading to arguably Ghana's biggest protest marches sounded like a joke or mere bluff, sorry, and were spoken by Dr. Charles Weku Brobe, aka Tarzan. Those words, the words that would lead to the earth-shaking event of 1995, still give me goosebumps. It happened this way. We had gathered as guests of Mr. Blankson to celebrate him, with him, some important event in his life. A birthday party, I think. As Providence would have it, I seated at the same table with Tarzan, Sheshe, Akutuampao, and a couple of others. That was the period of the introduction of VAT, and it was the talk of the country. So naturally, our chit-chat turned to that subject. Call it even impulsive. Tarzan said in Chi, we are tired, yeah, bre. Already an idea was germinating in that very fertile mind of his, and immediately started sketching plans for a public protest. They could as well kill us, he thundered, and that was Kumi Preko. It was pure genius. He did not use the plural, but personalized it, so each individual could own it, hence Kumi Preko. It goes on and on and on, mentions Nyaho Tamaklo, mentions Kwesi Pratt Jr., but what was most revealing was that he said that Nana Danko Akufo-Addo never really played a frontal role in Kumi Preko. I'm trying to look for that, but when I find it, I will bring it out. But let's look at the significance of Kumi Preko. I'm sure Honorable Rashid Pelpuo was still an adult, definitely, and you know, it was alive to the realities or the exigencies of the time, and can give us also his account from where he was looking at it from, so that we can also look at it from that perspective as opposed to persons who were directly involved with Kumi Preko. So, sir, can you recall what happened during the Kumi Preko demonstration, and what your best feelings were, or what your high moments and your low moments were relative to the demonstration, and whether or not you thought at the time that it was founded in conscience for the people to throng the streets? I don't know whether you were part of those people who were part of the demonstration, but arguably a larger chunk of the people went on that demonstration and protested vehemently against the introduction of VAT in 1995. So share with us your personal experiences before we get into the individual performances of the persons who cumulatively nurtured that idea, hatched it, and saw its implementation.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers, especially those from West Central.
We love them.
Yeah, and Barakat Salah to you. I hope and pray that the fasting we have done all these months, the whole of the month, would return with the greatest of blessings to us. Anyway, Kumupreku was like it was a situation we found ourselves that had not happened before. Yeah, I recall that we got to a point in the reform of the economy when we needed to be more dependent than, domestically than be dependent externally. In other words, we needed more of domestic resources to boost the economy and to build the economy rather than the whole idea of borrowing. So the government at the time, the Jerry Rawlings government at the time, decided that we're going to tax ourselves more. And so that was the first introduction of VAT. So VAT came, and it had been happening in other countries. And so the best practice with other countries was that you introduce VAT, and then people who sell collect the money and give to government rather than government itself imposing tax and collecting the money. So at the point of sale or provision of service, you pay the VAT there and it will be taken. This came to Ghana, and once it was introduced and approved by the PNDC, it became a big, the NDC rather, it became a big problem, a big issue. And so people were asking, what does it mean? They suspected that Rawlings was imposing something that was external, that was not Ghanaian, that was going to take a lot of money from them, and Ghana will be poorer, people are going to be poorer, and etc., etc. So it started in that manner, and all the newspapers were carrying it, and people were discussing until the MPP decided that they were going to do a demonstration, and they labeled it Kumupreku. I recall that on this day, I happened to be in Accra, and then I saw the mass of people gathering and what they intended to do. And I also recalled that as it was happening, a number of people also thought that, look, these people were backward. They were behind time and needed to be helped to understand that domestic tax mobilization was a key to the development of Ghana. So they also went to mobilize somewhere, intending to stop the demonstration, or rather intending to do a counter demonstration to say that, look, you are demonstrating against something, but it is good. We too will demonstrate to support it. So it was as if the stage was set for something to happen, a clash to happen, a fight to happen, or something bad to happen. So you had lots of other voices saying, look, don't demonstrate. Others saying there should be no counter demonstration. And the counter demonstrators say, well, if these people are given permission, we also asked our permission long ago, so we too should be given permission. Now, on the D-Day, the demonstration happened. Now, actually, I heard the name of Nana Akufo-Addo a lot, even though he didn't appear to be the originator of the demonstration. But because he was a very well-known person in the NPP and a member of parliament at the time, he was at he came to the forefront of the demonstration. I recall that Kofour was there at the forefront, and I was there. All the big weights of the NPP were at the front, and then they were on the streets, demonstrating against VAT, which is now the main source of our income, domestic mobilization of revenue in this country. So you see, sometimes when something good is coming to you, you might not know it's good. You fight it, and if it is imposed on you, you later on reflect and say that, look, this is something that needed to be supported. I mean, this was a government that needed to be supported. You know, at the time, the first time we Ghanaians saw asphalt on the roads. For the first time, schools were built, ramshackle buildings were renovated. You know, for the first time, electricity was extended to Tachiman and to the northern part of the country, brought halfway into the northern part of the country in 1992, 1993. And so things were happening. Anybody who didn't see things happening didn't want to see. There was complete and comprehensive transformation happening in the country. And so in order to add to that, and then to do it independent of the external, it was to do tax mobilization.
But Honorable, it must not be lost on any government that the policies that is drawn by whichever government must directly benefit the people, and the people necessarily must draw some level of relevance from same, right? So if you are introducing a policy that in the estimation of the people at the time was going to stifle them, that at the time they felt that they were not economically placed to be able to follow through with the execution of that particular policy, why didn't they find it expedient to involve the masses in agreeing or in arriving at a decision that was in the best interest of the people, as opposed to taking a decision that was clearly independent and ostracized from the thinking of the general public, and which will give birth to Kwame Preku, because
I think that Kwame Preku was hinged on ignorance, a lot of ignorance, a lot of misunderstanding of what it meant to be VAT, to go VAT. In fact, it was a political tool for them.
What was VAT then?
It was a political tool.
What was VAT then? What was VAT then?
VAT was simply a revenue mobilization tool.
Exactly.
And rather than government taking tax, they say take it yourself, because you are the seller. Take it yourself from the people and give it to government. Finish. I mean, while the campaign was going on, to explain to the public what was going on, they took it up as a political tool to remobilize themselves and to launch themselves, because they had lost the 1992 parliament. They were looking for a way to mobilize themselves into 1996. VAT came handy for them to come together with it and say, look, let's use this as a rallying point against the government.
But wasn't it burdensome? Why would people rally behind a clear opposition to that which, in your estimation, was going to help in the development of the people, if it didn't have any dire consequences? Because I'm saying that you are saying that people did not really fail to appreciate the import of VAT, or they didn't have the understanding of VAT, right, at the time. And so the organizers of Kwame Preku, on the basis of the ignorance of the people, decided to organize a demonstration by drawing, in the ignorant and things like that, and achieving their end result. What I'm actually suggesting to you is that if there was any relevance at all in the introduction of VAT at the time, the people would not necessarily, in fact, majority of the people would not necessarily have opposed to it. Because looking at the number of people who thronged the streets in disagreement with the introduction of the VAT is something that was indicative of the people's, clear apprehension, if you will, of the introduction of that.
You are speaking
plenty.
No. I see you are not in Ghana.
I am in.
You see,
Ghana.
we thrive in ignorance. I'm telling you the fact.
Granted.
When Nkrumah, the great guy who was doing everything in Africa and making all the moves and doing building our economy and doing etc., etc., when they decided to brand him and painted him negative, and then he fell through a coup d'etat, Ghanaians were all over dancing, pulled down his status, his statue, bent his books, destroy everything in memory of Nkrumah. Not because they knew that Nkrumah was a bad person, or that his books were bad, or that his policies were bad, but because somebody told them to do that, and they did that. In the same way, when they told them that was bad, nobody cared to find out whether it was actually true or not. They followed suit and did what they did. In the end, in 1986, when Rawlings contested elections, if it were true, the Ghanaians didn't like it, they wouldn't have voted for him. In 1996, when Jerry Rawlings contested elections, he got more votes than everybody expected.
That was an unfair election.
Stolen verdict. That's what the NDC described as stolen verdict. But let's proceed.
Remember that MPP has never accepted any election that they didn't win. Look at the history. From Nkrumah to date, No election has happened that they lost, that they accepted. Please, don't play into their court.
No, I'm not playing
that
into
stolen verdict was a wrong misplacement of letters and words. You know, hold on. You see, when John Mahama won his election, they said it was a stolen. They went to court and lost. When Atta Mills won his elections, they said they wouldn't agree. They went to, even though they were in power, they didn't still agree. We want to time, we won. They still fought against it. My brother.
No, hold on, because of time.
No election had been won from Nkrumah that they accepted defeat. So don't go there at all.
Okay.
As for Kwame Preko, they had complete right to go out and demonstrate if they didn't understand. Because the government had a duty at the time to explain to the public that, look, this is good. If you try to explain and they said they won't listen, it's their responsibility. So it was their responsibility for failing to understand.
But
it wasn't because VAT was no good. It wasn't also because the people felt that it was usurping their rights to keep their money. Because at what stage again could Ghana say that, look, let's tax ourselves? If in 1995, several years after independence, people do VAT and give you their money and borrow you money, you cannot do VAT, and you want them to be taxing their people and giving you aid. And so when a leader comes and say, look, let's do what others do, and money comes so that we won't go to them to beg, we can mobilize our own money, then you take up arms against the government. I mean, it's unacceptable. So I think that the present situation we find ourselves is several niches away from where we were. And we should not go back there and behave as if what happened ignorantly. Still, it's a good thing today.
Well, Dr. Rashid Pelpo has described the conditions prevalent at the time, for which reason people decided to embark on a demonstration, as one that can only be described as ignorance, because the people were ignorant of...
The leadership decision was hinged
on the ignorance of the people,
of the value of VAT. Please, let me explain again. The leadership took a decision based on an ignorant view of what VAT can do for Ghana. And it's based on the fact that when MPP won, the president at the time, President Kufuor, did not only embrace VAT, he increased VAT. That tells you that they didn't know what good thing was coming to them. They were ignorant of the facts. Yes.
Okay, all right. And which ignorance also was transferred down to the masses, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the masses are led everywhere by people. They are people.
All right. Dr. Nwagisi, let's hear from you. Kwame Preko, 25 years after, any lessons learned? I was actually going to try and glean some level of understanding from Doc, because I felt that the economic conditions of the people were one that couldn't have allowed for any other taxing system or taxing regime to thrive. And so, I was going to actually glean that from him, but he says that, I mean, the leaders...
Able men and women who put their tummies down in honor of Ramadan. I think it's a very wonderful period, and I like the idea. I think it makes us worship our Maker very well, and also makes us more humble during times of fast. Now, springing to Kwame Preko, I think it is wonderful somehow that somebody who was involved in fighting governance and then taxing the ordinary man too much, 25 years down the line, has doled out 3 months of free water to Ghana. Is remarkable. I think, I don't know, I mean, it makes it so unique in the sense that this is somebody who is truly thinking about people and their plight. There's pluses and minuses in everything. I believe that government failed in expressing and interpreting and explaining to the Ghanaian people the benefits of VAT when they introduced it. And let's bear in mind, this was a government that was coming out of a military mentality, where it is what we want that you get, not what necessarily is good for you. And I think that is where they failed, in the sense that in the military era, it was sit here and don't ask questions.
Obey before complain.
Obey before complain. And in that mentality, departing or transforming or reforming from that mentality was difficult. So the sentiments on the ground, was not strictly just about that, but to make a bold statement to government that, listen, the real era of sit down and wait or obey before you complain was coming to an end. And I really think that if we measure Kwame solely on just that, we may be erring in that regard. I believe that, one, governance then failed woefully in making sure that the average Ghanaian understood the benefits of that. And in that sense, it created the enmity, the attitude of not accepting the VAT. And I think that is where I take it that it is always important that when you are implementing any government program, that you make sure that the masses can relate to it, the masses can understand it, the masses are involved in the decision process. If the Ghanaians were involved and things were opened up fairly and in due time, I think many would have maybe said okay to VAT. But it was born out of the the mindset of the military rule, and I think that is where the call for the fight against government imposition came about. Now, when you say President Kufuor instituted VAT and added more, I beg to differ in that regard, in the sense that this is a president that brought about that change, that epic change. So in one breath, he may be taking, but in another breath, he was bringing more to the table. It still
doesn't defeat the fact that he increased it.
No. What I'm trying to get at is that, listen, if government grooms you and grows you, then government can benefit from your productivity.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation, because we're talking about VAT and the fact that when Kufuor came, he didn't only adopt it, but he adopted and increased,
in what context of HIPIC?
Yeah, but it was increased. That's
it's a plus or minus.
Why was there a demonstration? Why was there a demonstration? And there was a demonstration to protest against an introduction of a taxing system that the people felt
a poorly implemented taxing system.
How do you know? Because
that is why people demonstrated.
How was it
the poorly implementation is what I'm saying.
That been implemented.
The idea was not broken well with the Ghanaian people. Right now, if I say, hey, we're going to increase the taxes, light bill, water bill to certain percentage, and there's no justification for it, you think the average Ghanaian will just agree to it? No way. We equally would have seen NDC on the streets contesting that, why should government give us 3 months of free water? Why should government reduce our electricity bill? They would go, but clearly the times are so much on us that we understand that, hey, this decision makes sense per the time.
What is your understanding of the demonstration that was embarked upon? What is your understanding of that?
In simple terms, I think
of that demonstration?
I think that Kwame stood for one thing: the ability of ordinary citizens to tell government that, listen, you can't just impose anything on us. We have to agree with you. And if you tax us, you better use our money right. And that is what...
Was that done when Kufuor took over?
Oh, and that is why I'm saying that people appreciated the decision, because it made sense. And it was well executed. That is my point.
I see.
And let's not discount the fact that it was under a body that was transitioning from sit here, don't get up. And that is why Kwame made sense, because people were agitated, and there had to be a resistance movement against government that is always imposing. And that was one of the transitions in our Ghanaian democratic history, whereby the people could rise up against government and say, listen, it is what we want and not necessarily only what government wants. And that is, I think this should be studied well and put into our annals of democracy, how we've transitioned from military rule to where we are now. And I really think that these are some of the, pivotal moments in our history for Ghana's, transition from military to democracy.
Okay. So, Dr. Mazouk, I don't know if he still looks at the issue from a different perspective. That, yes, it was relevant at the time, demonstration he means. But also that not entirely discrediting the VAT system, but it's questioning, the potential implementation of that system at the time. And the fact also that the implementation was not discussed with the people who were going to be obviously the bearers of the suffering, right, at the time. And so it was needful for the people, also owing from the fact that the government in power at the time was a government that had transitioned from a military system into a civilian system, and therefore they had some remnant, if you will, of some, some military activities and things like that, and always were subverting the will of the people, subjugating the people into submission and counting them into submission. So the people in there to at some point rise up and demonstrate and tell them that we have transitioned from a point where it was purely military-based decisions to a point where it is a collective-based decision. And so whatever it is that you are introducing, if you claim it's in the interest of the people, then the people must as well be directly and actively involved in that decision making. So that's how he's looking at the issue. So what would be your response to? But obviously, you know Doc's position. I mean, Doc's position is quite
clear.
It's quite clear. It's palpable. I don't know whether Doc was in government. Doc, were you a minister or a MP at the time?
Oh no, I was neither.
A student of.
But a student of
at the time.
I was working, and I was mobilizing pain.
Ah, okay. And what about please.
Good morning to the cherished viewers of ours. Eid al-Mubarak to the entire Muslim community. Baraka da Sallah to darling daughter of mine, Fasiha. Thanks to the Pan-African TV, particularly the editorial team, for the opportunity to be here. Kumeku demonstration remains one of the turning points of democratic dispensation in this country, in the Fourth Republic. In terms of discourse, it is multidimensional: political, economic, historical. And in summary, it can be reduced into a clash between taxation increases in the interest of the national development and respect for the democratic will of the people.
For the people, yeah.
That if you observe very well, yes, I was young, but that was the year I started reporting for Free Press, the then Free Press.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And the editor of Punch, Atusam, that's his real name, was the deputy editor of the then Free Press. Alhaji Harunata, my elder brother, was the editor of Statesman. Kofi Kumsin was editing editor-in-chief of Chronicle, and Ebin Kwaku, the editor, Ebin Kwaku, the man of the men, an illustrious son of the Republic of Ghana, an illustrious son of the Inky fraternity, was the editor of the fearsome Free Press then. We needed to be courageous and intelligent to practice journalism. Kompreko demonstration was a matter of increasing VAT. And I agree with both of them. Yes. You see, I agree with both of them. Increasing taxation, from a different perspective. Right, for the first time, the Republic of Ghana heard the word VAT. There were other forms of taxation, but VAT was alien to everybody. And you could see that the introduction of VAT was heavily influenced by the remnants of military dictatorship that had just been overthrown. It was a matter, largely, it was a matter of imposing on the people. And those were the times we had opposition outside Parliament. The culture of silence had already been broken by the illustrious son of the Republic of Ghana, the late Professor Edu Boahene. He led Ghanaians, fearless Ghanaians, the breaking of the culture of silence. So it had already been broken. Because the culture of silence was broken, then we had the elections. Former President Rawlings won. In that election, it was not a matter of having having the same presidential and parliamentary election on the same day. We had presidential election, and then later we needed to conduct the parliamentary election. Because of the conduct of the presidential election, the main opposition party, NPP, decided that the exercise was not free and fair, and therefore withdrew from the parliamentary election. That was how we had opposition outside Parliament. So because it was an opposition outside Parliament, those involved, the opposition elements, were very aggressive. And you could also imagine having come out of a military junta, the anger. I mean, those people still harbored some an element of anger. So it was sure that there was an element of misunderstanding. But I don't want to say that those people didn't understand the VAT. I want to say that those people didn't understand the manner of implementation. The two are different. You cannot, I mean, most of them are intellectuals, most of them are experts in economics, whatever. Yes, you cannot. To be frank with you, I slightly disagree with my elder brother. Not that they did not understand the concept, but that they did not understand the manner of the implementation of the concept. And the implementation, as I said, was highly characterized by militarism, that culture of military control. And the people came out. We should not forget something. There was a manifestation of military dictatorship, even in that demonstration. People were brutalized. Very eminent Ghanaians were brutalized. And it was also a reflection of regime policing instead of state policing. The police, and even in some instances, military. Those were the days of the commandos. They were unleashed on demonstrators. Demonstrators suffered. There was a high level of brutality. But one thing for which I commend former President Rawlings, even up to date, at the end of the day, the will of the people prevailed. You know why? Maybe we have forgotten. Former President Rawlings had to withdraw. If you remember, the bill, the introduction was withdrawn, suspended, and then there was a little amount of reduction in the rate. I can't remember, either 21% or 70%, but there was a reduction, and it was reintroduced.
It was 17. They reduced it to
15. Yes, and it was so. In fact, then I realized that the president who had just metamorphosed from a military junta to a constitutional leader, decided to respect the will of the people. And for that, we must all commend him. In fact, those were the instances...
But is that what the people wanted, really?
Yeah, of course, at the end of the day, there was a compromise.
Yeah.
It was no longer a matter of imposition. Because at the initial stage of implementation, the opposition and even some of the apolitical Ghanaians saw it as a matter of imposition. But at the end of the day, the then president respected the will of the people, struck a compromise that was implemented very well. Today, we have all seen the benefit of that. I think this is how I want to tackle it.
Okay.
And I think it is good for the Republic of Ghana. It has been one of the turning points of democratic constitutionalism, and it will continue to influence democracy and partisanship in this country.
Thank you very much. I think that we have obviously now been able to look at the issues from all very different angles. So from the perspective of Dr. Rashid Pelpu, from the perspective of Dr. Admiral Kissi, and from the perspective of Dr. Marzouk, who was a journalist at the time, and I'm sure he was, reporting reporting on that matter, on the demonstration and other matters related to the demonstration. Thank you very kindly for your candid expressions on in respect of this matter. Let's now move on and discuss some other very important issues. The EC is meeting, and Dr. Rashid Pepo, with the grace of respect, start with you again. EC is meeting political parties today, but your party, the NDC, has declined participation. Why, please?
Well, it's very simple. We are not in normal times, and we all know the decision by the president and the executive order he issued to all Ghanaians as to how we can tackle this disease, how we can observe certain key safety protocols to avoid the disease from spreading and from affecting people. And this means that the EC and all other organizations must respect the law. Now, the EC has been asked by the Supreme Court. I mean, when they tried to circumvent the rule, they were put in their right perspective. When they went to go to do a gathering at a hotel, no matter what safety protocol measures they were going to take, the Supreme Court ruled that it was illegal. They should not do that. We also know what happened in the NIA when they wanted to gather. They also said the Supreme Court also ruled that it was not proper. Now, so what has changed? That the EC is now bringing together political parties together with their own officials who are more than 25 to a gathering. And they responded and said, well, we are going to observe the protocol, but we are going to have the meeting in two strands. We'll have a meeting with these people and have another meeting with these people. How will you collate the ideas together? Because we need to hear each other before decisions can be made. So the NDC thought that, look, we don't understand the desperation of the EC. We want to make sure the right thing is done. If the time is not ripe yet, don't meet. If the time is ripe and you call us, we will meet. If the ruling is that we don't meet at this time, we don't do business by gathering people, don't do business by gathering people. And so it's very simple. We don't want to go and help the EC in its desperate moves to do things that are in violation of the executive orders, presented by the president. Besides that, for some time now, the EC has been so desperate in trying to do a new register, as if to suggest that it is the only thing that can happen to Ghana, and if it doesn't happen, hell will come down. We want to tell the EC that should not be the case at all. And if that is the reason you are calling people in the midst of this pandemic to come and gather, NDC will not be part of it. It's very simple. That's what the reason we are not getting.
Do you want to go into the 7th December polls?
Of course. If the 7th December were made tomorrow, we will still go.
We'll still go.
Yes.
But are these conditions that you are referring to, for which reason you are declining an invitation to participate in a conversation that will help organize ourselves for the December elections, not still rife? For instance, if we are going to have the elections tomorrow, are we not still going to have these protocols to be observed? You want an election to be held in 2020, but you don't want to go into meetings that will help in preparing the grounds for the elections to be held in 2020.
Under these conditions.
Yes, but in December, don't you?
Remember that
how do you know that
by December?
Yes.
I'm sure, even by the end of the week, the president will issue other orders. If you go to Parliament, and Parliament gives you the authority to make laws, to make executive orders, and then you issue those executive orders, you have not relaxed them, and you are going into an election. You are telling Ghanaians you don't want to go into elections. And the president will definitely not do that. So by the time we are going to polls, new orders will be given. That will enable the system to relax and for us to do it. I'm sure that nobody is going to go to elections under these circumstances.
Is the NDC not simply being heretic?
No,
you simply just don't like the EC. You simply don't want to involve yourself in meetings that will appear to your following that you are acquiescing, if you will, to the whims and caprices of the EC. Is that not why you are preventing yourself from
it's actually not about our followers. It's about doing the right thing for Ghanaians. You see, first of all, we are opposed to the EC wanting to do a new register. We are opposed to the EC in desperation, wanting to gather people in any form at all. And we insist that our democracy must be intact. And we insist that the voting process and our electoral laws must not be violated. That's all. These are very straightforward, simple positions that we take.
When Samuel Oku was on the show this morning, he made some strong points about the fact that the NDC is partly the reason why we are where we are in respect of the electoral confusion, the confusion relative to the EC and its organization and things like that. Because when there was the decision to lay the CI before Parliament, albeit that you have not agreed as IPAC on whether or not EC was supposed to lay that CI before Parliament, but subsequently, when a meeting was called and the NDC raised some objections, you didn't even stay for those objections to be looked at. You simply just walked out. And so, since the EC got into office, all your attempts have been to just bastardize, malign, create an atmosphere of confusion.
I think
and preparing the grounds when you lose the 2020 elections to pin it on the EC.
If you are an MPP observer,
yes, sir,
this position is what they take.
Okay.
But if you are an objective observer of Ghanaian politics, you will not take this.
Or an NDC member.
Or an NDC member. You will not take this cheap position that some took. The position is this, that we have gotten to the point in our democracy when we have to uphold it. Fundamental. We are not opposed to any elections at all. We are opposed to shortcuts that can jeopardize our elections. If the EC has IPAC and has been working with IPAC all these years and has been seeking advice from IPAC because we are key stakeholders. IPAC is a key stakeholder, the number one fundamental stakeholder for the EC in decision making. The EC went to take a decision about a new register without any consultation whatsoever. And then you called an IPAC meeting to say that, well, we are not asking your opinion, we are only telling you we are going to do a new register.
Yes.
It will be stupid for any political party worth its salt to just sit down and say, yeah, and clap hands. We didn't want to be part of that. We left. You see? So if you call us a meeting to endorse a decision that you had already taken, when in actual fact, in the convention, in the tradition, you would need to consult and be advised by us. You ignored all that part and in a macho manner came to impose a will on us. on behalf of our people, by the constitution of this country, by the freedom and liberties we exercise every time, we will oppose it and we will not cooperate, because history will bear us out that this EC and what they are doing is not what is expected of them. They are violating every single rule of due consultation and due regard to the feelings and aspirations of all political parties. And they need to be independently conduct themselves in such a way that we can have confidence in them.
Why don't we also build that same confidence in the EC, so that everybody, regardless of whichever political party that you
have
belong
confidence
to,
in them?
Yeah, because and again, Samir Uku alluded, and I'm asking these questions because I also had the general secretary, the one and only general in Ghana's politics, Johnson Asiedu here on Monday, and he spoke quite eloquently, even as he was passionate, about the fact that after the 2012 elections, when we had this, this court case, there was a committee that was put together by the then Electoral Commissioner, Afrejan, and a few others. I think VCRAC Crab was also part of that. And the task, really, the simple task, was to look at the register that we had at the time.
Yeah.
Look at all the inconsistencies that were brought to the fore during the court petition and clean the voters register. According to Samir Uku, in September 2016, before the elections, those things that were tasked the commission to do were still found in the register, i.e. that we are still in the register 585,000 dead people who were still captured, on the old register. And all of these reasons are that which cumulatively have formed the basis for which reason they feel that, listen, let's all start on a clean sheet, so that we can all be satisfied in our minds that going into the elections, no one person will be disadvantaged or no other person will be advantaged.
KOD.
Is it not a fair argument?
You see the very, very lame decision taking or lame reasons being given. It's only in Ghana you will spend $500 million to do a register simply because you have 500,000 people who are dead. Clean it. You see, you don't need that much to go and do a new register. If that is the reason, go out, display the register. There are methods of doing it. Display the register. People who are alive will come and check their names, and then you delete those that could not be checked, could not be confirmed, and then you recompile it and do a new register and do a fresh registration for those people who are entering 18 years. And I understand there are just about 600,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not going to cost you that much money, not even 100 million Ghana cedis.
Oh no, but we are having to grapple. You yourself,
my dear.
That we are dealing with
So
COVID-19.
if you decide that in trying to clean a register, you have to do a new one, it's either because you have something at the back of your mind to try to cheat, or because you have so much money you want to spend, or that you don't even know what you are about. Because we are told by the EC that they want to upgrade the technology. This one has become outmoded. The makers of the old technology said that it's a lie. This is up to date. There's nothing wrong with it. They have no longer got any reason to say that it's a bad technology, it's an old technology. They now say, oh, 500 people were dead and they are still found in the register. I understand some people even say some foreigners were also in the register. Display and clean it. That's why you are there. That's why we employ you. You don't go saying, we are going to do a new register. We are spending this much money. 500 million Ghana cedis. Can you imagine that? Because and just check the identities they want to use to get a new register. Ghana card, which has been even less than a quarter done in Ghana. They are going to depend on that one. You go to a place, you have people line up, your machines are broken down for 3 days, you have only 4 days to work, after that you leave. Lots of people are not registered, are not giving Ghana card. Then you say, okay, that's what we are going to depend on. Don't you think any reasonable person will know that there's something behind what we are doing?
Somebody says the NDC is
then the second thing is
when
you are using a birth certificate, you are using a passport. You go to a village, the whole village, no single person has a passport. In fact, if you come to this place where we are now and ask the number of you who have a passport, very few of you will say we have a passport. And you say, okay, that's what we are going to use. Do you know the reason they are doing that?
No.
As much as possible to limit the number of people at the grassroots who are angry with them, limit their votes, so you can cleanly have, they know their strength is in the urban areas, a small urban clique, elite, voting and getting the MPP.
Sammy disagrees with you on that.
But he will definitely disagree.
He disagrees with the NDC. Yeah, he disagrees.
Yes. Because
He
when they agree
disagrees
something
with
wrong,
you. He disagrees with you, and he explained why.
yes.
He said that the first CI that was laid before Parliament was withdrawn when it became apparent that, you know, your party and a few others were in full disagreement of that particular CI. It was withdrawn and subsequently laid. Now, the one that they laid sought or still seek to suggest that if a person has a passport, that person is able to guarantee for 10 people.
I'm saying in the whole village, you don't have anybody having a passport.
Yeah, but I mean, some of us vote in a village. I
go
vote
there.
I vote in a village.
And so you go and stand there and guarantee for 10 people and go. So who is the next person who will come? Let me tell you the reason they withdrew the CI. It's a lie. They didn't withdraw because they wanted to accommodate our views. They withdrew because
that withdrew or
the EC.
the EC. They didn't, but he's speaking for the EC. Normally the MPP speak for them. So he says Samioku. So they withdrew it not because we disagree with them. The same content of the CI is still the same content. They withdrew it because they made a terrible mistake. You wanted to amend a CI, and you have a schedule of the CI. They amended the body of the CI without the schedule, and we drew them their attention. Look, if we do this, it will still be workable that voter ID, this, that, they will still be valid, because you cannot have a schedule speaking a different language and the body of the CI speaking a different. Then they, oh, okay, we see. Then they brought it back. Then the next one, incompetence. They brought it again, and then they left out certain key elements that makes it a law. The NDC pointed at them. Then they withdrew it again, and now they are doing a third one, a third laying.
Been involved, which is nice.
No, we cannot. Look, let me explain to you. If you lay a CI in Parliament,
Yes.
an ally, it becomes law in 21 days. You don't need to do anything to it. There's no debate on it. There's no amendment to it. But if we are, who are members of Parliament, see something wrong, we will have to bring it up.
Objection.
In fact, we object the content of the CI. If we had the majority, we will just throw it out.
Okay.
Because you cannot have a CI which would suggest that in order to identify yourself as a Ghanaian, you can't use your birth cert. You can only use a passport and then a Ghana card, which when you want to use to cross anywhere in our borders, they will say they don't even know it. They will reject it.
They prefer taking money to recognizing it.
Yeah, they don't recognize it. So we are terrified about what the intentions of the NPP is in this matter.
Okay.
And we want to call on all Ghanaians.
All right.
Look, don't see us as NDC fighting against a terrible law. We are patriotic Ghanaians seeking to set things right.
Okay.
We are people who want to make sure our democracy thrives. And we want to make sure that democracy which we all fought for and have put in place is not destroyed by hungry politicians or politicians who want to keep power.
Okay.
Because they have tasted it and don't want to give up.
Okay. By the way, Dr. Kwame also encapsulated a lot of other things. I'm seeing here low wages and salaries. I'm seeing here high cost of living. I'm seeing here
Plenty things.
a lot of other things. So it was not only predicated on the kilowatt. But Doc, let me
They pretended.
Yeah. So I'm very happy with Doctor's submission. Dr. Pelpo, he said it all, but he said one word that stood out for me, which is we will not cooperate. We will not what? Cooperate. And I think it is an unfortunate posture. I see that as the overarching thing, the main thing. NDC says I think this should be headlines. NDC says we will not cooperate with EC, whether EC is right or wrong.
That one you are adding.
No, he didn't add whether right or wrong.
You are adding it.
So my point here is that what is beautiful, MPP has held the opinion that the register has issues. From a medical standpoint, the register is sick. From a business standpoint, it is bloated. This position has been held. People were lamed several years ago because of this same position. Some have lost their lives because of this same position. And I love one thing the president stated a couple of days ago. He said that it is interesting that the MPP has held one position whilst in opposition and has held the same position whilst in government. On the other extreme is our wonderful party, the NDC, who largely lambasted MPP for all attempts MPP made with regards to the EC to bring about change in the voter ID system. President Mahama, former President Mahama, was talking, preaching for the EC, saying that, hey, no, even he, the president, cannot change what EC wants to do. Because EC, by authority, by
supposed to be independent.
By arrangements of the state, is supposed to be independent and will be independent, and we should leave EC alone. Every party, any party talking bad about EC is because they do not understand governance, they do not understand democracy. So MPP did what? We folded our arms and we still held our grounds that the voter register needs to be changed. Fast forward, we are now, fortunately, by the blessing of the Almighty and by the decision of ordinary Ghanaians, we are in power. And what is better than a party that fulfills its promises? What is better than a government and a president who held an opinion while in opposition and has still held the same opinion while in governance? That, listen, when we were in opposition, we were beaten up and called all sorts of things when we said the EC needed to change the register. Now that we are in government, we want to prove to the Ghanaian people that, listen, we were not saying it for saying sake, but we meant it. And we mean well for Ghana. We want a free and fair election. We want one that people can accept and believe in. So let us start afresh. I have said countlessly that as for me, Dr. Admaku Kisi, I believe that someday we will have to agree that maybe after every 8 years or 12 years, a totally new register will be made for Ghana. I think if the Member of Parliament agree to this, which is that every so many years, be it 6 years, be it 8 years, be it 12 years, that there will be a new register. Now, if this is agreed on, it won't matter who is in power. It won't matter who the EC boss is, because this would have been an agreement in the country that because of our death registration, our birth registration issues, that moving forward as a country, whoever is in governance, no matter the amount of money needed, our registers have to be changed. I think it will be well received. So in this time that MPP is in power and we're making this change, 12 years from now, if this has been agreed on, no matter who is in power, be it my party, be it NDC, that rule remains the same. And nobody will come and say, hey, why are you changing? Why are you not changing? And all that. We would have had an agreement. Now, the benefits of peace cannot be calculated in dollar amounts. The lives lost when there's controversy, the lives lost when there's war, the lives lost when there's disagreement, discontentment, is not a matter of dollars. as they always say, if peace is expensive, try the cost of war. Let's go to Somalia. Let's go to all these other places. Whatever amount that the government needs to use to maintain peace in Ghana is important. And I don't care what dollar value you put on it.
No, it is precisely this statement that you're making.
Uh-huh.
That the NDC is also suggesting.
Yes.
That we must toe a line that is necessarily in the best interest of all Ghanaians. So that if you are saying that you're going to even, let's assume without admitting, that the NDC will in the future change their position regarding, the registration of the compilation of the new voters register. They simply are saying, which I very much, to a very large extent, agree with, that we must not necessarily only use, because that's what the CI is seeking to suggest, that we must only use passport and national identification card. Hold on, that's what the CI is saying, right? But if we want to capture as many Ghanaians as possible, because, and I asked Samuel this question, because the current register that we have is about 18 million, right? The people who have passports, including minors, are around 2 million, right? The people who have registered for the national identification card is a little over 500,000, isn't it? So, and even then, a substantial fraction of those people don't have their cards yet. So if we are going to use just these two documents to prove your citizenship, in order that you can register to vote in an election, then we are being unfair and uncharitable to the people, and fundamentally, we are flouting a very important provision in the Constitution that says that we must all be allowed to register if you are 18 years and if you are of sound mind to vote. So we will end up disenfranchising people if we don't look at the CI that is presented in Parliament in order that we can allow for every Ghanaian to be registered.
And what the EC is saying, that you have a very good thought process. You've had a very good thinking about this. Let's sit down and let's show you what the avenues are, what the possibilities are. And here's a case that instead of coming to table to discuss the matter, you go and sit on the sideline and talk all you talk. In the court system, if there's any case at the Supreme Court, me, an ordinary citizen, can be put as a friend of the court, and I can write in totality my dissatisfaction or my satisfaction with an agreement or a case, and it will be admissible in court. It will be read and considered before judgment is made. Nothing stops the NDC, even if they will sit at the table to discuss, to write a full summary of their assessment, their discontentment, and put it in writing and present it.
I think this will be made public. The Eminent Advisory Committee was put together because of all of these disagreements that the NDC had relative to the conduct of the EC. The EC is supposed to be an umpire. An umpire is one that, that accepts all views.
Come and sit down, let's discuss. You say you won't come.
Yeah, but
you've made your point.
Yeah.
I've agreed. Brani and Kasa also.
But if you have an umpire that says that NDC as a political party is dangerous or injurious to the democratic experience we have,
because they are saying they won't cooperate with the engine. The body is saying, listen, Kwame, let's be very careful here. If you are you have a discontent about something, and they tell you that come to table, let's discuss, and you come to table for discussion, then who is being unfair? Who is being unfair? I think it's a lazy approach to sit on the fence and not come. We did not empower our MPs, our parties. You see, being in a position, you have to work. Being in a position, you have to work for people to believe that, listen, when the alternative comes, it's better. But when you are in a position and you are failing to come to table and state clearly at the table and then also listen to the varied opinion, then you are not doing what we expect of an opposition party.
In the past, we know that civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, and a few others are very instrumental, and their utterances are incidental to the development of this country.
Absolutely.
Now, if we all admit that they have contributed quite significantly to our democratic experiment.
Especially when the mediation comes.
Then, hold on a second. Then we must, as a matter of relevance, also consider some of their pronouncements in respect of this whole brouhaha that is surrounding the EC, the NDC, and the MPP. Now, if you have IDEG, you have CDD, you have Imani Africa. They've settled on the debate of new voters register. Hold on, sir. And many other NGOs. And they have concluded quite unequivocally that we do not need to compile new voters register to get into the 2020 polls. So it's just as though we are not listening to wise counsel. We are only listening to our inner conscience, that which we feel will satisfy, the ribs and caprices of others, as opposed to
I beg to differ.
That because the EC is working. If you read Article 45, the EC is supposed to be independent, but that independence is not also oblivious, must not be oblivious of the people whose interest it is serving. So even though the EC is independent, it is serving a certain interest, and the Constitution enjoins Ghanaians to resist if we feel that certain provisions in the Constitution are not being respected.
Kwame.
And clearly, in disenfranchising people, you are disrespecting some provisions which are very vital in our democratic experiment.
Kwame, I will throw a challenge that let us start the new registration, and when we have finished or we have gotten somewhere, and the population of people that have registered are less than a third of the previous register, then you'd have a case. Then you can come and say that, listen, we said that this register will disenfranchise people, and truly it has. When we come out, then I don't think any court, the Supreme Court, will tell you that, Master, you are wrong. I really doubt it, because you have enough evidence. It's like telling somebody that, listen, this product, when I take it to market, is going to sell. Everybody's going to love it. Take it to market, test it, and then you have a case. No, but when you sit on the sideline and say that
I disagree with
we are disenfranchised, but Kwame, listen, my point is that
branding, packaging, marketing are all very crucial.
And you don't want to be part of the table. So how are we then?
You have sent a CI to Parliament.
We? No,
I'm saying we.
It's the EC.
I'm referring to the EC.
It's the EC.
But I'm saying that the EC has sent a CI to Parliament, which CI deliberately excludes the usage of the previous voter's ID card that was used in the 2016 elections, deliberately deletes from the list of documents that you are supposed to use in registering the birth certificate, that which almost all Ghanaians have. And you are telling me
why don't
we must have a conversation about it?
Why don't you go and sit at the table and...
Is the EC oblivious of that?
They are not.
No. You have to go go to the table.
You go
How can you listen when you're not coming to the table?
I'll come to you. Let me hear from
come to the table.
You interjected small. Let me hear from Dr.
I'll come to the table to discuss. There are no-go areas. Number one, don't talk about the documents that are included that will identify a Ghanaian. You can't talk about that. So they will take away the voter ID card, which elected the president, which president is legitimate and is working.
Yeah.
Elected members of parliament who are legitimate.
The district assembly
elected assembly members who are legitimate.
The referendum.
That voter ID card is not allowed.
I'm surprised.
So take that one away. Take away the birth certificate. We won't agree to that. So the rest of them, let's discuss. And this is so. What should we discuss?
Those are the bread and butter issues that we need to discuss.
I believe.
Away. And so don't discuss these ones. These are the things that you should discuss. Discuss whether we are going or not. If you are not active, we are going because we are independent. The Constitution has guaranteed us that right.
Yeah, Doc, you've listened to him.
There's one brilliant
parliament he has explained.
There's one brilliant thing John Bodu said, the secretary of my party. He said that, listen, even though we are in power, it will be very bad for us as a party to have faith in the EC. You understand? Somebody had faith in the EC who was in power, and they were rokotoed. When I say rokotoed, they were surprised. You understand? So, my point here to my opposition people is that, listen, MPP is not, one, in bed with the EC, two, is working hard from a party's perspective to ensure that things work well so that we can go to polls.
Thank you.
December 7th.
Thank you.
And equally, they should do the same.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Mazouk, let's
Yes,
hear from
sir. Election can be described as the soul of constitutional democracy. It is the process through which the masses exercise their their right or their power. You know, in constitutional democracy, the real power rests in the hands of the masses, who then transfer that power to the governors.
I think the Constitution clearly states that.
Exactly.
That sovereignty resides in the people.
Yes. Yeah. So here it is clear that everything about the election is very important. Very, very, very important. And I have made it clear that the election is important. Election is important in democracy. What is more important than the election is the integrity of the electoral body. But the most important thing is the integrity of the chair of that electoral body. In our situation,
Madame
the Electoral
Jean.
Commission. And,
Madame Jean Mensah.
Yes, Madame Jean Mensah. I don't want to talk too much. I want to offer pieces of advice.
Okay.
1, to the Electoral Commission. 2, to NDC. Let me even start with NDC. NDC because
Go ahead.
Personally, I also have problems with the manner of conducting business by the Electoral Commission. Personally, I have problems with the Electoral Commission. Problems because, yes, these are problems that everybody can understand, right? If you observe very well, from the composition through the utterances to the directives of the EC, there have been problems. People have raised concerns about former leading members of TISCON, now appointed as leading members of the Electoral Commission. People have raised concerns about certain utterances that have been injurious to NDC in particular. People have raised concerns about the manner of conducting the electoral processes. And these are very serious sources of concern.
Okay.
And for that reason, personally, I have a problem with the EC. My problem with the EC, I said I want to start with NDC. And therefore, NDC should not think that it is the only institution that has problems with the EC. There are so many Ghanaians. I'm not a politician, yet I have problems with the EC. That is not to say that the EC hasn't done well or will not do well. There are still opportunities for the EC to do well. The first piece of advice to the NDC is that it should not boycott anything in relation to the election. It should not. You know why? Boycotting in our democratic history has never been the best. I'm telling you. And today, MPP can admit that the opposition outside Parliament was a catastrophic error. I'm telling you. And that was why, instead of opposition outside Parliament, they had to be part of the electoral process, and even at the end of the day, they had to write the stolen verdict.
Correct.
Instead of just boycotting. It has never been the best. It will never be the best. So NDC should be part of it. 2, in democratic politics, it is defeatist to associate yourself with a series of boycotts. It is defeatist. And you don't know what your opponents will do. I am advising NDC to be part of any process. Let Ghanaians understand your position. Let everybody understand what you stand for. Let everybody understand that you have not been given the opportunity to serve Ghanaians. You have not been given the opportunity to contribute to the enhancement of the quality of democratic process. particularly the electoral conduct, let everybody understand. But when you boycott, you give the electoral body the opportunity to do what it wants.
How do you partake in a process that you feel clearly ostracized from? How would you invite yourself to a table that you don't have a chair at?
Yes, you go there and register your protest. It is better. Look, my brother, it is let it be on record.
Yes.
That one, you were denied the opportunity to even contribute. Two, even when you saw it as your constitutional right to contribute, you were ignored. Let it be on record. If it is not on record, I'm telling you, generations yet unborn may not forgive NDC. Yes. You know why? The fortunes of this country are largely.
You advise NDC.
Yes, I will.
You advise NDC now. You should advise NDC.
I will. Just a minute. Yes. You see, the fortunes of this country are largely in the hands of NDC or MPP. I'm telling you. And for a very long time, Ghanaians will continue to have the governments shifting from NDC to MPP and from MPP to NDC.
Hey, PCP will be upset with you.
No, I'm saying for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm saying for a long time. Yeah. And of course, you don't need any statistics to make this statement.
CPP Dr. Rashid
for a very long time.
He will be our presidential candidate.
So many people have confidence in NDC. Many people have confidence in MPP.
Yeah.
Let NDC be involved in everything, even if it is cheated. It should be on record that it participated. It wasn't given the opportunity to state its position. It should be on record.
Okay.
Now to EC, because the issue is between NDC and EC. And if you want a third party, of course, an elder brother has advised, and therefore I have to obey. If you want a third party, I can still advise the MPP. EC. It is in the interest of EC to ensure that the qualification for registration is simplified. If it is in the interest of EC. How on earth do you exclude things that are simple for majority of the people as requirements for registration? You are from day one, you are creating an opportunity for people to mistrust you. You are creating issues of trust. So EC, if possible, should review its decisions on the requirements of registration. Two, let the EC understand that it is an independent constitutional body responsible for the conduct of the election. However, the independence here is in relation to the satisfaction of Ghanaians in relation to the conduct of the election. Let the EC also understand that yes, it is independent, but the task assigned it is public, Ghanaian, constitutional, political. Do away with simplicity and go for complexity in a process that involves everybody, every legitimate voter. Let's go for simplicity. Unless, of course, we don't trust our systems. If you think that our birth certificate is not trustworthy, let us know. If you think that any other form of Ghanaian citizenship identification is not trustworthy, let us know. And if there is the need for us to make it trustworthy and make it part of the instruments for registration, let us also know. I believe.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe that EC has a larger responsibility.
Yeah, we'll go for a second round, but this time maybe 3 minutes. So, Doc, I'll start with you again. But let me just read a few of the messages. Kerry, good morning to you. Ask Doctor that if VAT was not fairly implemented, then he should advise his government or MPP to stop the compilation of the new voters register, because this compilation is more dangerous and scrupulous and needless than VAT. Are we in? Stop calling the WhatsApp number, I beg you. Are we in military regime or civilian dictatorship? If EC is fair and need fair elections, they should include old voters' ID card and birth certificate. It looks as if the current EC has tarnished its image, and for that matter, let them contract Afra Jana to do the job for 2020 election.
Afarijan.
Afarijan. The way he spelled it. Mohammed sent this one in from the Gambia. Thank you, Mohammed, for sending your message from Gambia. Champion KO, the MPP man said they promised the people of Ghana to give them a new register when they came into power, meaning the agenda for compiling the new register is MPP's agenda and not the EC's agenda. Steve sent in this one. Here, they asked Dr. Adwa Ukisi, I want to register for passport today. What basic document should I use? MPP for you. Kwame from Georgia sent in this one. And this has also come up a lot, that even with the acquisition of passports, you have you have to use
your birth
certificate. And in fact, even the passports, you have people who are not Ghanaians who have Ghanaian passports. Kwame, answer Adwa Ukisi for me. This simple question: two people are arguing over an issue, and you want to call them to come and debate over the same issue. Would he call them together or separately to come and debate? We are not safe in this country. Kwame from Bogo also sent in this one. Ex-President Gbagbo did mafia registration and ended him in jail when he plunged the country into chaos. Akufo-Addo should be very careful. Shaggy from Nima sent in this one. This one also says, good morning to you, Nana Kwame. Kindly correct the heading of the topic being discussed currently as displayed on your screen. Tutag is not involved here. What is on the screens? I think no, there's no Tutag on the screens, please. There is.
Defiant.
But NDC declined participation.
Okay. This one also says, William Obey from Cape Coast. Please, I don't understand why birth certificate and voters ID was used to acquire passports and NIA cards, but cannot be used for the new voters register. So if the person is not Ghanaian, but he or she has to use his birth certificate to acquire an NIA card, how is the EC going to testify that such a person is a Ghanaian or not? Good morning to KOD. I think NDC has scored a low point for not attending the EC meeting. And I'm wondering if several well-meaning people could not advise. But we don't need a new voters register because there's a lot of inconvenience for Ghanaians to even go and queue to register. But the NDC also has made a mistake for not attending. Okay, good morning, Pan-African TV. Let me remind ourselves, most especially the EC, that when social, political, economical, and cultural processes are monopolized by a group of people who, to adopt adversarial approaches to resolving misunderstandings, could result in uncomfortable happenings. Hence, the EC should reconsider its stance again, so to consolidate the existing peace Ghanaians are experiencing.
Sure.
You sent Francis Ahianyo Ahovi from Oyibi sent in this one. This one bears my name. He says, I am Elijah Tempelin Kuken in Binduri district. Whenever MPP present their case on the new voters register, it's always disgracing. The only two requirements before we can register as a voter is clear. Oh, please, I can't read your message if you are calling the WhatsApp number.
No TV.
This was a KOD. Good morning. I disagree with the lecturer that NDC should be part of the meeting, even when they feel cheated. John from Ho sent in this one. Good morning, KOD. In fact, I have come to realize that the name of the political party NPP should be known as non-patriotic people. Oh, Master, why? Pascal K from Voter Akachi North sent in this one. Good morning, Lawyer Kwame. Please kindly read my message because it's very important for us to take note. I'm currently in the northern region of Ghana, and upon engagement with the chief and his people, about 200 of them don't have passports or Ghana card. According to them, if they are disenfranchised, no election will take place in that area. I wish Electoral Commission should hear this. To me, other people too at the other places in the country could go the same way. Lawyer Kwame, I can see a loom in a carnage, but may God forbid. God bless Ghana, a land of million milks. This one is from Gates in northern region currently. Obviously, if the people feel disenfranchised, they will definitely protest. Good morning, KOD. My name is Hussein from Salaga. The NDC is not going to sit down and be cheated before they act. The current EC and MPP have a mindset of we smoker. Hey, good morning to you. He said good morning to Rashid Purple. This was good morning to you. When the EC was going to do the limited voter registration recently at their office and were advised that it will disenfranchise some people, they did not listen, but a lot of people were not able to register due to that decision. They should be careful. Nash from 64 Bench in Tamale says, good morning to you, KOD. Tell Dr. Kisi the independence of the EC is still not challenged, but the supremacy of the people must be respected. the rules of the EC should be constitutional. And if the EC fails to abide by the constitution, we in NDC will not respect chair and her so-called rules. KOD, would you believe I went to acquire a birth certificate for my sister and they denied me because they thought the name doesn't sound Ghanaian. Moreover, they choose to pronounce the name how they want and conclude that it's not Ghanaian. We are Sisala by tribe and have Sisala names. I would be surprised Johnny Kalonde would be denied birth certificate in these times. This is also a very interesting revelation, KOD, Dr. Adumayo Kisi there, you should go back and read the 1992 Constitution. The law is already there for the compilation of voter registration. Article 45 of the 1992 Constitution is clear on that. It states in part that you register once and revise periodically. The fact that we did not adhere to this provision in the past does not make it right. Today, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity to determine that landmark case before them. Jidefo Abochi from Adidome sent it this one. Listen, the messages are enormous. I have a few of them on social media as well. So if there's a by-election now, what are they going to use? Common sense. Juliana Belinda Lamte Obri sent in. Kabude Abude. Good morning. I want to ask a question. If you are born today, new baby, we use passport or birth certificate. Good morning, KOD. Come December 2020, every single vote against MPP is a declaration of Ghanaian's second independence. Let's get involved. My regards to Dr. Rashid Popo by Nuri Dalige. I don't agree with what you are espousing on the show. Why wait and write names of people to see who is not captured and throw the country into mayhem? When rectifying it will be too late. Consider the time available and the agitation of the people not registered. It's looking gloomy for the country. Good morning, Michael from London, Croydon. Good morning to you, Michael Johnson, for sending this one. But please, the MPP man is saying we allow the EC. Is it the MPP man saying we should allow the EC to register? And if the number does not reach the number of the actual voters, then the NDC can talk. Hey, MPP people are very wicked. Anthony Issa says this EC has lost its integrity so far. Abdullah Ahmadu says MPP and EC want war, and they will surely get war. Please don't beat the war drums. I beg you.
We don't want that.
Joseph Edgio says, good morning, KOD. You are doing a very great job. Keep up. Lukman Abdullah says, every MPP is evil. Emmanuel Kofi says, watching you from Barcelona, Spain.
You free water.
Abdullah Ahmadu says, ask the MPP man how many security men they have in the country. Should they be thinking that if something happens spontaneously, should they think they will be able to bring it under control? Raouf Salif says, Allah will punish MPP, inshallah. Good morning to you, Champion Kid. I'm particularly worried and disheartened about the culture of silence that is gradually creeping back into our dear nation. What is more worrying is the hypocrisy of our clergy. All of a sudden, everything is smooth. What an irony. It is so clear that EC is in bed with the ruling party. So sad. John Timoni Mahama sent in this one. George Jermaine is watching. Sandra Wilson says, my Bible Patriot sweetheart, ask yourself, is the pandemic situation going down or up? Okay, you sent in that one. Lukman Abdallah said, for the dangerous. Sandra Wilson, Eric Silvanus, okay, right. Dr. Rashid Popo, let me give you a few minutes for rebuttals, corrections, straightenings, and things like that.
Boycotting.
Okay, so first of all, let's say that.
What do you have to say to people who are saying that you shouldn't have boycotted?
Well, I think we've listened to his advice, but we won't take it. Boycott is a very important tool in democracy.
Okay.
It's very, very important tool in democracy. It's all used all over the world to carry the people along. If you go and sit down like a doll and they cheat you,
persistently boycotting,
tell the people that, well, I sat there, they cheated me, but I needed to
persistently boycotting.
Eventually, you would not have anything to tell the people. You carry them along, you sound your message clear. But let me tell you, the EC is saying that they are using only voter register, only the Ghana card, and then the passport. See what they have done. In Ashanti region, they registered 2.4 million people. They have issued 1.7 million cards to them.
Yes. So how did they register 2.4?
They were able to register 2.4 million people. And then you come to Eastern region, they were able to register 1.2 million people. They came to let me just fast track to Upper East region. You're managed to register only 220 people.
Out of how many?
Out of a lot. You see, they registered over 220 people, issued only 49,000 cards. You know, out of the Upper East region is more than 600,000 voters. In fact, in the last election, there were more than 600,000. Yeah. They registered only 220 and issued only 49 cards.
Wow.
In Volta region, over 1.4 million voters. They registered only 560 and issued only 420.
What happened to the 900,000?
Who knows? In the Upper West region, let me go quickly to my region. In the Upper West region,
you will consider the population differences too.
Yes. In the Upper West region, they registered
that will make it
147,000 people.
No, but listen, look at the numbers.
Look,
in each region.
We have
numbers in relation to the population.
No. Listen. In relation, they could have registered everybody if they could register 250. In the Ashanti region, they have they have registered.
I'm just helping you to make it more scientific.
Okay, they have registered more people than the voter register. People in the voter register, they registered over it. They went past the voter register.
Yes. That's his argument.
Yes.
Okay.
In the Upper West region, our voter register is more than 600,000 people. Okay. The region is only 147,000.
Very bad. The source.
No, but let me add one thing.
Hold on.
There's one thing.
Your time will come. Otherwise, time. So I'll give you your time.
There were places where they told people not to go and register.
Let me tell you, when the registration came, I went to WA. We mobilized our people. People carried others on. They first promised that they were going to open 88 registration centers. In the end, in the whole region of close to 90,000 voters, they opened only 20 stands. So villagers have to travel from far distances to another village to go and register. And in the end, they will say the machine is broken down. In a particular situation, the machine broke down for 3 days, and they needed to be there for 1 week. When the machine was on for 4 days, they closed the registration. When they closed, you have people still in queues, and they ignored them. This is in the Upper West region, where they could have registered everybody on the voter register. They couldn't get to even a quarter.
NIA or voter register?
A quarter. Sorry, NIA registration. Even they couldn't get to a quarter of the what is in the voter register. So because they have registered so many people in their strongholds, they decided that is the voter card, is the NIA card they are going to use. You see, it's a very easy way of cheating the system. You rig the election without people seeing you carrying ballot boxes and running away or printing more than one. That's how to cheat.
Modus of operation.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Let's briefly.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here. In very simple terms, MPP has held the ground that the voter register needs to be changed. This has been in opposition time. This has been the same in governance. So MPP has been consistent with that. Now, I don't see how a new register makes anybody rigs the election, because our voters will be in there, NDC voters will be in there. So I think that both parties just to work hard and make sure that their voters are registered on the new register, and that should be it. Now, there's still a case for us. The registration can go on until the day of election. I mean, almost to the day of election. So let's keep that in mind. It's not a 1 week thing. Okay. It can go on. If by December 7th, some people are disenfranchised, they still legally, by the Constitution, have a right to get themselves onto the register. So let's keep that in mind as well. Thank you very much.
Yes, let me clarify something. I think I have recognized boycott as an essential tool of exercising democratic governance. I've said that, but I have also made it clear that in our situation, if you follow the political, the historic trends in our situation, it is not the best.
Thank you.
I stand by my advice. The NDC has the right to listen
or not to.
Or to ignore.
They won't cooperate.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wasifu. Thank you very, very kindly, Dr. Adamawakisi, and
we listen.
Thank you very, very sincerely, Dr. Marzu. My name is Kwame Owusu. So today has been a very wonderful edition of Good Morning Africa. We started off the morning show with a conversation with the national organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Samia Wuku, who did his best to explain a few things to us here on the show. Sami, thank you very, very much. And thank you to the Communications Bureau of the MPP as well for releasing Sami for us. We're grateful to you. Kofi Japan, we're grateful to you. Thank you. And also to everybody who watched the morning show today. I cannot thank you enough. You've been a beautiful company today. And I thank you very kindly for spending your quality morning with us. I cannot be ungrateful to you. You guys have made the morning show what it is now. And I'm grateful. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. But until then, please stay safe. Make sure that you observe social distancing. Make sure you use your nose mask. Make sure you use your hand sanitizers. Make sure you frequently wash your hands under running water with a soap. And make sure that you say a prayer for all of us. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a very beautiful day. God bless you. And oh, by the way, thank you also to Samuel Uku's personal assistant, Hilda Uku. Thank you very, very, very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Thanks a lot. God bless. Salute.